You're watching Top Minute, and I'm your CJ. Welcome back to their albums ranked. And today's, as you can see, the title is of Judas Priest. The brand new album came out. I thought I would go and re-rank Judas Priest. And let me tell you, it was an absolute bitch to do so, because re-listening to all the Judas Priest albums, there's 19 of them, and some of them, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It really is a pain in the ass, but I finally got it done. And yeah, Judas Priest, one of my favorite bands of all time in heavy metal. One of the bands that I've listened to for a very long time. I even think that I've listened to them longer than I've listened to Metallica. Hard to believe. But yeah, Judas Priest, an epic band, epic stuff. Let's get into it. 19 studio albums. One has to be 19. And well, 19 is pretty much deserved, which is Nostradamus from 2008. Of course, I've seen a lot of people say this is their worst, and, well, I agree. An hour and 14 minutes is way too long for an album. There's some fantastic songs in Nostradamus, like Dawn of Creation Prophecy, like the Prophecy Dawn of Creation 2, and also Nostradamus, the title track, and some of the other ones here and there, but really too fucking long, and really, yeah, it feels like a chore listening to this album. And really, I could be listening to other albums by Judas Priest, maybe even some of the older ones. So yeah, like, this is not gonna be anywhere near the best Judas Priest albums. Number 18 might be a little bit controversial, but Turbo. Turbo, honestly, another one that's like, Judas Priest going glam was by far the worst decision looking back on it in 2024, but in 1986, it may have been different, as glam was huge at that time. Judas Priest's style of gritty, leather, in-your-face metal was too much of a contrast to the glam style, so, like, yeah, it doesn't really, it's not really a proper Priest album, but it's good. I give it a 7 out of 10. Best song is Locked In. Nostradamus is a 5 out of 10. I think the album, yeah. Like, if you could put it in like 40 minutes, it would be fucking good. But yeah, Turbo. Best song here is Locked In. I absolutely love that song, but it's on Turbo, and it's kind of glammy in itself, but hey, it's Judas Priest. It's still fucking good, but yeah, it's fucking good, but still. Number 17 is Rock-a-Rolla from 1974, the blues rock debut from Judas Priest. It's a good album, but it's nowhere near the others above it. Halford's vocals are fucking awesome on Rock-a-Rolla. Honestly, just fucking raw vocals, just, yeah. The instrumentals show some brilliance, but are quite overshadowed by the vocals, as the vocals are just fucking raw and pure, and just absolutely pierce the mix. Absolutely awesome vocals on this album. Comparing it to the albums later is hard, but the albums above it on the list are miles ahead. It's a 9 out of 10. Fucking awesome record, but still, it was a fun listen. But yeah. Another one at number 16 that has the same problems as Nostradamus, which is Demolition from 2001. Actually, a pretty enjoyable album that is bashed to no end for the fact it is Tim Ripper Owens on vocals. The main thing that makes this album imperfect is it's too long, is it's over an hour. It's over an hour, and in the songs, there's 13 songs on it, which some of them just feel like a drag in some places because, like, yeah, it's too fucking long. There is new metal elements to it, which are actually done quite well, mixed with the heavy metal, giving the album quite an edge. There's still solos, so it basically be like the Judas Priest style with solos plus new metal. So yeah, it actually is pretty fucking good that way. Owen sounds fantastic on the album, with his voice fitting great with the sound. Best song is One on One. What was it? I recently watched the 2001 Live in London, I think it was, and One on One was one of the songs that they actually played on that one, and absolutely ripped. Great live stuff on that one. Even with Ripper being on vocals. I've recently seen Ripper on vocals with KK's Priest as well. Absolutely, that's another group that they were great live. Number 15 is going to be Ram It Down from 1988. Demolition was 9.1 out of 10. I keep forgetting to say that, but Ram It Down from 1988. Coming back from the mistake of Turbo, Ram It Down delivers the shreddiest experience Priest did up to this point in their discography, furthering their sound. The reason Ram It Down is this low is the songs are not as memorable. They have a memorability problem, as I think they were still reeling from Turbo. Very forgetful album that transitioned Priest into Painkiller, which I can give it props for that, and plus. 9.6 out of 10. Best song on Ram It Down is Heavy Metal, like one of the GOAT songs from Judas Priest. I absolutely love that song. Yeah, and also the Johnny B. Good covers on this one, which is actually good. I know a lot of people hate that cover, but I do. I love it. I love that cover. Number 14 is going to be Redeemer of Souls from 2014. Fantastic album. And the first one with Richie Faulkner on the guitars for this band. This one suffers from Judas Priest's stacked discography, like the other ones outside the top 10 do. This album was a blast to re-listen to. While Halls of Valhalla, Dragonaut, the title track, and Battle Cry are all standouts on this album and are bangers. My favorite, however, is a weird pick, Hell and Back. Absolutely amazing riffs on that song. Honestly, I actually like this album. Is pretty good, and it's the first perfect album on this list, 14. But yeah, it just suffers from the stacked discography of Judas Priest, because Judas Priest's discography is like 14 perfect albums in my opinion. So yeah, so a lot of really good albums are gonna fall at pretty low on the list. Because, yeah. Number 13 is Angel of Retribution from 2005. The first album with Rob Halford in just forever to this point. They had Tim Ripper Owens for a very long time on vocals, and then like they got Halford back and released this one. And yeah, it's just a wonderful album. It's what fans were asking for, and while they received. While being perfect, I find it to be overshadowed by some of the other albums, like I mentioned before, as the stacked discography of Judas Priest. Angel and Judas is Rising are the big songs, but Angel of Retribution also features Deal with the Devil, Hell Rider, and my favorite song in this album, Loch Ness. Absolutely amazing song, Loch Ness. It doesn't really get mentioned very often when talking about Judas Priest, as it's just a masterpiece, honestly. It's the last song on the record, and it's just such a masterpiece for the last song. Number 13 is number 12 is Point of Entry from 1981. Point of Entry is underrated, with most of the songs being never talked about or mentioned, like Don't Go, Hot Rockin', Troubleshooter, and Solar Angels being some. Heading Out to the Highway is the main big one from this album that gets talked about the most, but my favorite here is Desert Plains. Absolutely fantastic song. Point of Entry is also unfortunate to be released between British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance, as those are two of their most successful albums, and this one just gets sandwiched in between, which it doesn't really get paid attention to too much because of that. But yeah, still one that I go back to regularly and enjoy. It's like 14. I'd even go back to Demolition often. I go back to Demolition and Ram It Down quite often as well. So it's not like I don't go back to the ones that aren't perfect, but number 11 might be a little bit controversial. Sin After Sin at number 11 just missed the top 10, and one of their classics from 1977. This album being this low may be a hot take, but in a stacked discography, I have to and regret. I have to regret, and I regret as Sin After Sin is a fantastic, perfect piece. The song list is amazing with Diamonds and Rust. The second time this song appeared because it was on the debut. Sinner, Last Rose of Summer, and Dissident Aggressor that also Slayer covered. It's the first fully metal album Judas Priest would release, and it would be a start of greatness to come. I would say that Angel Retribution isn't a fully metal record, but it is a metal record, but it's not fully. It still has some of that debut stuff. Best song here is Starbreaker. Of course, Starbreaker. I fucking love that song. I absolutely love Starbreaker. Now we get to the top 10, which the top 10 is like really kind of big. Number 10 is Firepower from 2018. I remember the day this one came out as it was praised as a new Painkiller, but I'd have to disagree with that. I don't think it's up to the level of what Painkiller was. I loved it when it came out. I loved the sound of it. It was bold. It was new. Being better than Redeemer of Souls, it really was the best Priest album in a while. Songs like Firepower, Evil Never Dies, Rising from Ruins, and Spectre are potent, absolutely potent. Guitar work is amazing. The solos are amazing. Compared to the rest of the Priest discography, however, it's middle of the road, and I can't really put it any higher. Best song is Lightning Strike. I remember that song was a live opener when I seen Priest, I think twice. I think they had it as a live opener. I think they had it as a live opener both times I seen them, which makes the song pretty memorable. Number 9, here's another controversial fucking take, which is number 9, British Steel. Might be a little bit of controversial take, but most would say this is a definitive album that represents Judas Priest, and I agree, but it's not their best album by any means, honestly. Heavier than Killing Machine and grittier than the previously released, it stands as a legendary piece in heavy metal history. More raunchier subject matter mixed with Halford's vocals, making more metal-esque and not as rock. British Steel contains Living After Midnight and Breaking the Law, which is by far two of their biggest songs out there. But my favorite on this one is Metal Gods. Metal Gods is like fucking awesome to see them play live. Just the synchronized guitar dipping that they do with that song, and then the fucking riffs that are on that one. Number 8, a little bit controversial for being this high, which is Jugulator from 1997. Here is an album that gets unnecessary hate, mainly because Rob Halford is not on it and is Tip Ripper. But I didn't even know this masterpiece existed for the longest time until I ranked Priest the first time on this channel a few years back. And listening back then, I didn't really like this album because it was like the first, or like I listened to this album maybe twice before that, like twice getting prepared for that ranking, because like it was a discography that I didn't listen to in full beforehand. So re-listening to this album, I hear its absolute brilliance with songs like Bloodstained, Decapitate, Brain Dead, and Dead Meat, featuring a groove metal sound that is heavier than any other Priest album, and Tim Ripper Owens on vocals, which his vocals fit perfectly. I absolutely love Jugulator. I know a lot of people don't like this album, and I can kind of see why, if you're like not a fan of like Pantera and stuff like that, or Soulfly, or anything that's like, or any like groove metal, you would not really like this too much. But I've been a fan of like Devil Driver and stuff like that, so I kind of dig this album. I dig this album quite heavily. I put it at number 8. Best song here is Cathedral Spires, as it's one of my favorite Priest songs of all time. Just the closer on this album. The chorus on that song is so fucking good, honestly. Number 7 is going to be Killing Machine from 1978, or Hellbent for Leather. If you're from the States, I'm from the States, but I still call it Killing Machine for some stupid ass reason. But yeah, the second album to come from Judas Priest in this year, and well, it's grittier than Stained Class and feels more in your face, but I still prefer Stained Class over it. Most of the songs get overlooked due to a few bringing some of Priest's biggest overlooked songs, as in Rock Forever, Killing Machine, Burning Up, Evening Star, and the opener Delivering the Goods. The album also features Hellbent for Leather, which is the best song on the album, like hands down, best song on the album. I feel like this album gets overshadowed by British Steel, as it's directly before it, and it's one of their biggest albums, but in my opinion, Killing Machine is just a better album, and yeah, it has more of a rock-oriented style, but still has that grit to it that they're known for, and it's one of the more legendary albums for just the fact that Hellbent for Leather is on it, which is kind of for me, because like it shouldn't just be brought to that level just because of that, but it should be brought to that level because all the rest of the songs are fucking good too. Number 6 is Invincible Shield from 2024, the brand new album. I said the day this album came out that it was good and on the level of some of Judas Priest's greatest works. If you want to hear me go more into depth, I'm going to save time here. I have a whole video on this. I'm not going to really go into too much of a depth on this album, but yeah, some of the songs on here, like Panic Attack, The Serpents and the King, Gates of Hell, Crown of Horns, just make this album such a fucking ripper. The solos are like miles ahead of miles ahead, honestly. So overall, number 6, Invincible Shield from 2024. I think I said that right. If not, then you're going to bash me in the comments section, but yeah. Number 5, top 5 Judas Priest albums. Stained Class from 1978. Stained Class is a classic from Judas Priest, and it has some of their most legendary songs on it. The guitar tone and solos get a new edge to them on this one. Halford's vocals start to go towards more of the well-known style and sound. They are more nasty sounding than on their albums before it, going grittier, more heavy metal style. The album is where I think Priest solidified themselves as a band that would be around for the long haul. Songs like Invaders, Beyond the Realms of Death, which is absolutely awesome, and Exciter are fantastic, but the title track is one of their best songs ever. It's between the Beyond the Realms of Death and the title track for my favorite on this album. I can't pick between those two. Just those two are just awesome songs. Stained Class at number 5, which is a little bit higher than what some people would put that album. Number 4 is Sad Wings of Destiny, 1976. The sophomore album, and one of their most legendary for a reason. A perfect blend of blues, rock, and heavy metal, where Priest comes into their sound to a point. Sin After Sin is where I said that they kind of dropped the whole blues rock thing. This still has it a little bit, but still has some of the heavy metal elements that we like from them. Some of Priest's most legendary songs, like Victim of Changes, Dreamer, Deceiver, and The Ripper, but the other tracks are just as strong. The instrumentation is taken to a whole nother level than what it was seen on the debut, and Halford's vocals are even better than what was on the debut. I still think this album isn't the classic Priest sound, and is more of their early year transition, but still top tier, and these songs get still played by Judas Priest and KK's Priest pretty often. Best song here, however, is Tyrant. Kind of a weird pick for this album, but Tyrant has always been one of my favorite Judas Priest songs, and it features on Sad Wings of Destiny. Just the vocals and the way that Halford delivers them is just fucking awesome. Number 3 is Screaming for Vengeance from 1982. You already knew this one was going to be high. So I've seen people put this one low, which I'm like, what are you doing, honestly? This album slaps from beginning to end, and only thing keeping it from the top spot are the two ahead of it also slapping from front to back. If you thought British Steel was a big album, this one is even more large for Priest. The big hit songs, Electric Eye and You Got Another Thing Coming, are two most people think about when thinking this album, and maybe even Judas Priest. But Riding on the Wind, the title track, Devil's Child, and the ballad Take These Chains are not to be overlooked, as they rip so fucking hard. While not being the heaviest album in the Priest discography, it still has some of the greatest sound that Judas Priest has ever produced, and some of the greatest songwriting. There is no going wrong with this album, and I've seen people hate on it, and well, you are wrong. Absolutely wrong. If you hate this album, you are fucking wrong. Hands down. Best song here is Bloodstone. Bloodstone is fucking awesome of a Judas Priest song. Just Halford's range on that song is just fucking awesome. Number 2 is Painkiller from 1990. The album that preceded Halford's departure from this band a while ago. For Priest fans, this is the most popular choice for the best album in the discography, and I can agree it's one of their greatest. For me, I have to put it in second place. The songs on Painkiller are like a greatest hits with Leather Rebel, Metal Meltdown, the title track Painkiller, and One Shot at Glory, Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, and Between the Hammer and the Anvil, all being on this album, which, yeah, this album is fucking stacked from front to back. They took the sound on Ram It Down and advanced the songwriting even further to make an album that rips your face off with raw power and technicality. The reason Defenders of the Faith is higher, spoiler alert, not really a spoiler, as you would probably already know by what's left, is higher is just preference and nostalgia. Most nostalgia as in like listening to this album, listening to Defenders of the Faith on repeat, like in high school study hall for fucking ever. Because that's the only one I had bought on my phone, so yeah, might be a little bit of a biased take, but most of these songs are still played live regularly by Judas Priest and KK's Priest. Best song on this album, in my opinion, is Nightcrawler. Holy shit, that song is awesome. I absolutely love Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was, that was one of the first ones that I tried on guitar, and from Judas Priest, and yeah, it took me fucking forever to figure it out, but yeah. Number 1, as said before, Defenders of the Faith from 1984. By far Judas Priest's best album, and not as heavy as Painkiller, but still heavier than Screaming for Vengeance, with being ambitious for the time in Judas Priest's career. Seeing Judas Priest be less commercial compared to their previous, they focused more on advancing their sound than going with what worked. And yeah, it just produced an album that fans ultimately say is like one of their best albums, but like commercially it kind of wasn't as commercially successful as British Steel or Screaming for Vengeance. The guitar work is widely improved from the albums before it, as it has much more technical in the riff department, but more wild than when the solos hit. Halford's vocals are even better than what was heard on Vengeance, with his high notes ripping through the mix. Defenders also features some of Priest's greatest songs ever, like Some Heads Are Gonna Roll, The Sentinel, which is an absolute classic, Rock Hard, Ride Free, and the opener, Free Will Burning. But one of my favorite Priest songs of all time, maybe even my favorite Judas Priest song of all time, is Jawbreaker. Fucking hard-hitting song, and this Jawbreaker is a fucking hard-hitting song. This album hits from front to back. It's fantastic, flawless, and absolutely awesome. And yeah, that's how I ranked Judas Priest. I hope everyone liked it. It was a little bit hard to get to this video because it's like 25 minutes, but yeah. And yeah, I'll see everyone. I have nothing to say anymore. This discography kind of left me speechless, but hope everyone liked it. I definitely enjoyed making this video because, well, I fucking love Judas Priest, and yeah, their discography stacked. And I will see everyone whenever I decide to upload again, which will be Friday. So yeah, peace.